Power being the admin. I love it.
All right, we are live. Yes, Jerry does have the power. We are live. Sunny Days Media Football Show, Week 14. Um, we got not the most exciting slate ahead of us here, but if I could, um, what do you guys want to lead off with first? Do you want to talk about Thursday Night Football? Do you want to talk a little bit about what we saw yesterday in the college game?
Can I make a confession about Thursday Night Football?
Yeah.
I watched 5 minutes in the second quarter, and then I went to sleep. And I've never hated myself more because that ended up being like probably one of the best games of the season. And I knew it was going to be a great game, and I just didn't. I don't know. I'm just really upset with myself that I didn't tune in.
I'm kind of.
There's no reason why that shouldn't have been a Thanksgiving game. Zero reason. Switch the weeks.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
we've had a lot of dog shit primetime games, so it was nice to have a really good competitive Thursday night game.
Well, they've been saying Twitter has been talking a little bit about how Thursday night's the new, I guess, Monday night. And I feel like
Monday night games suck too, though.
I'm saying as of late, as of this season, the past couple of weeks at least, the Thursday night games have been pretty lit. And not to mention, like, if you even go back further into like towards the beginning of the season, like I forgot who the Falcons played, but they beat them on the final drive. That was a great game. There's been a handful of really good Thursday night games. Yeah. I'm gonna see if I can find out what game that was. I just remember that game because I won money on it.
So
was that the Kirk Cousins threw 500 yards game?
It was Bucks Falcons. The Falcons beat them in OT when they drove down the field to tie the game.
Yeah.
Facino, I really want to hear your both of you guys, but specifically an X's and O's take here from Facino. Facino, you watched Thursday Night Football, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I cannot understand why this is such like a controversial thing that Dan Campbell did in the end of the game.
So it's the easiest decision. You have the best offensive line in football, and your defense has like 3 starters left. You don't fucking kick the field goal.
Thank you. So for those of you that didn't see the game, Lions are coming down the field. There's about 40 seconds left. They had just run on 3rd and inches. They didn't get it. Now it's 4th and inches. And they had the opportunity to call time or whatever, let the clock run, kick the field goal. If they had done that, they would have given the Green Bay Packers 45 seconds to go down the field, although with no timeouts, but go down the field and at a minimum kick a field goal. So the Lions are walking into this game with 13 defensive players out, not all starters, but 13 defensive players out. Okay. Some key special teams guys out as well. I want to say the Lions are leading the NFL right now with guys on either injured reserve or guys hurt. How is it so crazy that you look at all of that and say, you know what? Like Ant just said, I've got the best line in football. I've got maybe the 2nd or 3rd best run game in football. I've got some of the best blocking tight ends in football. I'm going to run it one more time, kill the clock, kick a field goal, end the game on my terms. How is that such like an extraordinary thing? Because if the Lions had decided to play it safe and just kick the ball, they'd still have to play defense, right? You'd still have to stop Jordan Love from going, 50, 60, 70 yards down the field and kicking a field goal. And we all know how quick these referees are to throw that flag out of their pocket on the pass interference, right? So very quickly, that could go from 40 seconds at the 30 to 37, 35 seconds at the 50-yard line, right? Mm-hmm. And why in the world would you take that chance? Even if the Lions are wrong and they get stuffed at the line, they still got to play defense. So no matter how you look at this, like they were trying to avoid doing that and keeping the game in their hands. I don't think this is similar. People are comparing this to the NFC Championship. I don't think this is the same thing as leaving points on the board and going forward on 4th and 3 to convert. Like, I think that these are two totally different things. You're talking about 4th and inches with the best line in football. Like, why is this so crazy? And honestly, if your head coach is not willing to do this, then maybe there's a reason that this head coach is 12-1 and other teams aren't. I mean, we could criticize Dan Campbell on a lot of things, but like, there's a reason this team is 12-1. It's not just Jared Goff. It's not just Ben Johnson. It's not just Jahmyr Gibbs or Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's a collection of everyone, but it's being led by Dan Campbell. And I'm sorry, you're talking about a guy that took probably the biggest disaster in football. Now, I guess if you want to talk about the Jets, you want to talk about the Browns, right? I mean, that's debatable, right? But like one of the biggest disasters of an organization in football to 2 back-to-back 12-win seasons, clinch the playoffs already in what, the first week of December, on the way to clinching his second NFC North title, and we're going to criticize this guy for believing in his team?
Stupid.
I disagree with that. Give me that guy over the guy that punts on 4th and 1 every time.
Never, ever say you can't criticize somebody when they're right. That's what I'll never understand about the media. Like, the media makes it so that, I don't want to make the wrong decision. It's like you make the right decision, they criticize you. You don't go for it, they criticize you. But when you go for it, like, they're waiting for the opportunity where he takes it and they don't get it, so that they could make
Mind
it
you,
more
that night,
conservative.
They went 4 for 5 on 4th down. So, like, yeah, I would say you're probably doing the right thing if you're 4 for 5 on 4th down. If you're a hitter stepping up to the plate, Jerry, and you're 4 for 5, you're having a pretty good day. I'd say you're having a damn good day.
The thing is, though, like, I thought about this when I was listening to part of my take, and again, didn't watch the game, but I was thinking about it in the reverse because all they were doing was sucking off Dan Campbell, and I understand why. I love Dan Campbell. I think he's a dog. I think he's a great coach. I think he's been doing great things in Detroit. If that goes wrong, though, he's wearing the dunce cap. He is the boner of the week, the Trojan boner of the week. Yeah. I honestly think you are.
Because if you kick that ball, you still have to play defense. So what's the difference? What's the difference between giving them the ball at the 20 with 40 seconds?
They're on the 20?
They're on the 20. Like, what's the difference? You were basically where you were going to be after a kickoff. So I'm either going to take the 3 points and kick off and give it to you at the same spot with 40 seconds, or I'm going to try to end the game. I mean, it's not like they weren't in the middle of the field. They weren't like just barely into field goal territory. They're at the 20. So they were where they would have been at a kickoff anyway. I mean, from a field position standpoint, like, there's just no part of this that seems that crazy. It just doesn't.
Yeah, it's just they love to criticize the guy because they want. It's almost like the media is so like
media wants to be right about this. They want to be right about,
so that because the media always takes the conservative approach, and because it's the media and they have a lot of people listening, they always take the conservative political view. What would the politicians say? Oh, you take the points and you do it. No. You don't do that. You have the best team. You go win because when you win, you have more wins at the end of the year than the other team. And then when you have more wins, then you get to play home games and you win the division. And then you have a better chance of going to the Super Bowl. But when you give the other team an opportunity, you're saying, well, I'm not sure if I really wanted to win that badly. And obviously, Dan Campbell is telling his team that he will do anything to win. I think that a lot of teams, Doug Peterson has that approach. The only problem is he doesn't have the O-line, so he gets criticized and he'll get fired. But it doesn't mean he's wrong. Just because it doesn't work out doesn't mean that you're wrong, because nobody will ever know what would happen on the other side. But we do know one thing. Jordan Love can throw it far. He has 4 good receivers, and the Lions have a lot of, they have a lot to be,
And
they just have a lot of problems on defense.
This was a Jordan Love-led offense that put up 24 points that half. Like, in 2 quarters, they put up 24 points. So in Dan Campbell's mind, odds are they're going to come right back down the field and they're going to kick this field goal. We're going into overtime. I don't want to go into overtime.
So now they're the number 1 seed. All they got to do is win a few more games here.
Well, they got to bank on the Eagles losing a game at some point here, and I think that they will. I think
why they don't have the tiebreaker for with the Eagles.
No, but they would have. I want to say the Eagles have 2 losses on the season.
Yeah,
3. They have 2, so I'm really not sure how that would work if they have the tiebreaker over them. I know the Lions' 1 loss was against an NFC team, so they could lose next week against the Bills, and I think they would maintain the tiebreaker because the Bills are an AFC team.
I'll tell you in 2 seconds.
I just think, I don't know, like, and I guess a lot of this comes from him going for it so much on fourth in the NFC Championship that killed him. And I do understand that, but it's going for it on fourth that got them to the NFC Championship. You know, they had to go for it a couple of times in that Rams game. That was a 1 point win last year in the wild card round when the Lions won that game. And then the same thing the next week against the Buccaneers. That was a 1 score win. I think they won by 7, and they had went for it on fourth more than once in that game. So I just think like this is what they do, and I guess you live by the gun, you die by the gun. But once again, give me that guy over the guy that's too scared. The guy that's scared, the guy that punts, the guy that kicks field goals when he shouldn't. I'll take that anytime over this. I mean, after years of watching Jim Caldwell and Matt Patricia just play it conservative because they were too scared to get fired, and in the end, you got fired because you didn't win enough. You know, if Jim Caldwell had went for it a little more on 4th and 1, 4th and inches, he might still be coaching this team 10 years later. Unfortunately, he's not. You know? You got to have some stones, and it's got to be regulated. But you know, I do think a lot of this stuff is calculated with him. I mean, since Dan Campbell's taken over in Detroit, his 4th down conversions at like what 70%, 75%. Yeah. That's pretty fucking good. That means you're right a lot more than you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's consistency though. And that's the biggest thing why everyone's kind of cool with it is just because the decision is made and he knows what he's going to do, you know, and that's the biggest thing. Like you look at Dan Campbell versus Brandon Staley from last year, where it's kind of will they, won't they type deal, where sometimes Staley would go for it and it would be a completely boneheaded decision. And then other times where it's clear cut that he should go for it, he'll punt or kick a field goal or whatever, you know, like, so I think it's just the consistency that gives Dan Campbell the leg up here and makes people appreciate it more. And like you said before, like the guy's a dog and everybody in that Detroit locker room is standing up for him and playing for him and knows what the deal is. And these guys are going to be hungry and they're going to come out, they're going to eat your kneecaps. And that's going to be that, you know, there's no doubt in the question. If it's within, I would say 5 yards, they're going to go for it. I would say 10 out of 10 times, maybe 3, 5 might be a little bit of a stretch, but I say more often than not, they're going to be going for it on 4th down. And in the day of analytics, it's kind of, you know, we've all played Madden before. Nobody likes to fucking punt in Madden. You're always going to go for it on 4th down just for fun, you know, and then it's kind of, you know, that's just what it is. And I like to see it happen. I think it makes games more exciting. But then, like I said before, on the bottom side of things, though, you have to, you know, be willing to pay the piper when things don't go your way, which he has done in the NFC Championship last year. He said, hand up, that was on me. We should have did this. I didn't do that, but this was my game plan all along, and I was confident in my guys, and I trust my guys. So I think that's why it works so well for him.
Yeah. And still in the NFC Championship, like if Josh Reynolds catches that ball, we're not talking about any of this. We're talking about the Lions in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like the decision making, I think what it is it of the norm. It's not of the norm, but it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, you've got 4 downs for a reason. You know, and it's like, how are you going to live your life? You're going to live your life always doing the safe thing. Like if we all lived our life in the safest way and, you know, like things really wouldn't be that exciting and big businesses would never start, you know, like nothing. I mean, listen, if we all wanted to be safe on this podcast, we wouldn't have a podcast, right? Because we'd be embarrassed for people to make fun of our takes or call us stupid or whatnot. But like we're taking a chance, right? And we're putting our opinions out there. And I think that it's a I don't know what the word, it's a parallel to real life, and that he looks at it as like, fuck it. I know I've got the guys here. And like you said, Jerry, like that entire locker room, you're not seeing what's happening in Chicago or with the Jets, with the Giants, where people are kind of not sure, you know, if the coach has the locker room or like, no, everybody in that locker room is willing to die for Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, and Ben Johnson, you know, and they don't ask anything of them that they wouldn't want asked of themselves when they were players.
And they can lose to the Bills and still get the 1 seed. Yeah. I don't think they will lose to the Bills, but they could.
Yeah.
I doubt they'll lose to the Bills. It's a home game, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they're not going to lose.
That's going to be a good game.
I believe that's getting flexed. We haven't heard anything, but I was told that was supposed to be flexed into Monday night, but I guess not.
That's next week?
That's next week. So I think it's now past that. I think it's got to be like 12 or 14 days. I think it's 12 days notice.
Let's see. They're playing at what? Is it a 1 o'clock?
It got moved into the
4:25. Yeah, it's tough because the 4:25 is still a prime time technically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
That's the issue with that. If it was a 1 o'clock, it'd be getting moved.
Yeah.
And
well, no,
Monday
I
night,
think it originally was a 1. I think they moved it to 4:25. I think it
there's
was
a Monday night double header that night too.
Yeah. Bears, Vikings.
Yeah, Falcons, Raiders. Jeez, I guess they want Brock Bowers on.
Honestly,
they want
that's
to
not the worst
him.
Monday night slate either, because that's a really important game for the Vikings. I mean, the Vikings here are a win behind us. They need us to lose at some point. We need them to lose at some point. You know, this is a big game here, right? Bears just fired Eberflus. Who are the Bears playing this week? They're playing the Niners, which I would actually be inclined. That's a 4:25 game. I'd be inclined to take the Bears points there. I think the Niners season's over.
Yeah, so do I.
They keep losing. Shanahan might be gone.
People are talking about the idea of Shanahan going to Chicago in like some sort of a trade, or I don't know if this is the last year of his deal. But
I think it's crazy that they trade coaches. It's nuts.
I did
It's
not
just
look
as
at the,
important.
Did not look at the comments here. My boy Danny, big Packers fan, but if you don't get it, you're playing defense of the tie game, and a field goal wins it. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Like I said, my only counter to that is you kick that field goal, you're still playing defense, and Jordan Love has the opportunity to score a touchdown and end the game too. You know, you can't act like that's not, a possibility. So
yeah.
Moving on. Who do the Jets have today? Are we even going to bother with the Jets?
The Jets have the Dolphins.
I'm not even going to watch.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I haven't watched 3 weeks in a row now. This is the longest I've gone.
The Jets have the Dolphins. They're 6.5-point dogs. I don't know. They already beat the Dolphins once this year, I think, but it wasn't.
No.
Oh, they haven't played them yet.
They haven't played them.
Well, it would be nice
playing
to
them
beat
week
the Dolphins.
18.
Yeah, in a must lose.
Yeah. Now, you know what? I said this last week. Actually, I wasn't on the show last week, but I said this last week on Twitter. I'm out. Ooh, we'll get to this in a second because the AP poll just came out.
Did it?
Yeah. I am out.
Okay.
I'm out on tanking. I understand the whole whatever. I get the outlook. I think it's fucking loser talk. I want to win games, dude. I understand that winning does us no good, but I just like personal pride here. Like I just want to win. That's it. Just give me it's just so much better when you win on Sundays. And I'm going to be honest with you. You look at these mock drafts, dude, we're taking a defensive lineman. Who the fuck cares? We don't need a defensive lineman. And even if you do, you could scrape one up in the later rounds or even off the free agency. Like it doesn't, we're not making a move for a quarterback like we should be. I want Jackson Dart. I'm getting shit for that. I would love to pick up Jackson Dart with whatever it is, the 6th overall pick. But it doesn't, it's just like, there's no point. We're not in the running for a top spot here. I don't think. And I understand if things keep going the way they're going, maybe we have a shot, but it's just, I don't know. I want to win some fucking games. And I think it's more than possible to do so. I don't think it's that far-fetched. I think the team's playing well this week specifically. We're a little up shit's creek without a paddle, but we'll see. It's going to be a big-time game for Braylon Allen because Brees is hurt, which kind of sucks. We have no Brees and no Sauce, which I think is going to be kind of shitty. But I don't know. Dolphins aren't that good of a football team. They're kind of skidding around a little bit with no direction, I feel like. And now that Tua's back, things are a little bit different. But I
think this is it for Mike McDaniel. I think he's gone.
You think?
I think so. And I don't think he's the greatest coach, but I also don't really think it's his fault. Like he's had I honestly think the worst decision made was giving Tua that extension. But I think he's had a lot of inconsistency at the quarterback position. He is, though, starting to lose that locker room. There was a lot of quotes, and people were criticizing this, but I kind of agree with it. So they're saying that where were they just playing where it was freezing? They were playing in Green Bay, and they lost that game. And they said at halftime the players were saying that McDaniel was so cold he was standing next to the heater shivering. and like could barely talk.
That's dramatic.
And people are saying that that's a sign of weakness from him. I kind of agree. There. Like, you're leading a group of men in a brutal, weather situation that you guys are obviously not accustomed to. I think you got to be strong. I think you got to show them that you're not phased, even though you are. And I think you need to fucking prepare yourself. Like, you got to layer up, man. It sucks. But like, I don't know. Like, I work outside next to the water all winter long. It's terrible. It's brutal. It's pathetic. But like, I'm out there, right? People got to do it. And you're out there for just coaching a football game. Like, put your layers on. I don't care what you do. Put your layers on, but like, you can't show weakness like that. And maybe that sounds like a toxic masculinity type of quote. I don't know. But like, for me, yeah, that is a sign of weakness, I think. And yeah, that's not a good look as a head coach. I mean, I'll never forget. Jerry, you could relate to this. We had a fire on Curtis Avenue in my town, and it was that day. It was 0 degrees with a wind chill of -15, and I watched my chief out on the front lawn get covered in water without any gear on.
Oh God!
Freeze his ass off, and the guy wouldn't move. Because, yeah, our lives were in his hands per se, but like, that would have been weak of him, right? To go and do everything from the car, right? And like lower the window to talk to people. No, he had to be out in the front lawn. And, the guy did it for 3-4 hours and he was drenched, and I felt terrible for him. And eventually people brought out some fucking blankets for him. But like, that's what a leader, that is leadership, right? Shout out to 9101 Chief Stellato. But that's leadership, right? Is it not?
Him on Instagram.
He's got a very colorful Instagram. I don't know. Once again, maybe people call that toxic, but no, I think that's like, you got to show some fucking leadership, man. Like, your boys are out there killing themselves in the trenches, and you're standing next to a heater. You could barely talk. That's not a good look.
No, I agree.
You know that you're going up to Green Bay, and he coached in Denver. You know how. Dude,
he's from Colorado, so the fact that he's just all Hollywood, Miami, whatever, can't deal with the cold is just shocking. Like, he's best friends with a comedian I like, Dan Soder, and like they're from Colorado. It's very cold in Colorado, so the fact that he's babying that's a little like you said, kind of worrisome.
Yeah. But it is what it is. The team didn't win, so we talk about it.
The fact of the matter is, though, for Mike McDaniel, he's from that tree where he'll probably be guaranteed a job, and he has enough tape where it's kind of good enough for him to kind of carry that on his resume for a little bit. I don't know if it was necessarily the team around him or what, but you gotta, he has that whiz kid persona and all that stuff. So you gotta kind of think that he's going to be wherever he goes. I mean, I'll take him in New York. I don't know. Oh, yeah. I still want Rex. I'm cool with Vrabel, but I'll take him in New York.
The AP poll, you've got Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Notre Dame 3, Texas 4, Penn State 5, Ohio State 6, Tennessee at 7, Boise State at 8, Indiana at 9, Arizona State at 10, Alabama 11, and at 12, SMU. What stood out to you there, Jerry? What was so...
Hold on, I want to pull this up.
They had Clemson on the outside looking in, even winning the ACC championship.
Well, they're already in.
No, Clemson's out. They're at 13.
No, they get an auto bid.
Yeah, because they won the ACC.
This is how it works. So how it works is Clemson won. So now they're going to have an automatic bid.
Oh, this is the AP. Okay,
and it has nothing to do with
playoff. Right.
Now, the problem is that
I'm sorry.
if you're SMU and you're 11-1 and you don't make your playoff, you're 11-1. Now Alabama is 9-3. So even if you have 2 more wins than Alabama and 1 less loss. There's so much of a discrepancy between your wins and losses, and you had to go play in a championship game, which they said wouldn't hurt you. If they put Alabama in over SMU, then the whole point of the playoff is flawed because you're basically saying, oh, you're going to get penalized for losing. Now, I understand if you lose 45-10, but SMU was absolutely the better team. They didn't call a single flag on Clemson the entire game. They came back from 17 points down in the fourth quarter and they lost on a heartbreaking field goal from 56 yards out. There's no way in hell they should give Alabama the 12 slot because Alabama 2 weeks ago lost to a 6-win Oklahoma team.
Yeah,
Alabama lost to Vanderbilt.
I agree.
SMU hasn't lost to anybody. SMU, the only team they lost to is BYU, who's ranked in the top 20, and Clemson, who's now in the college football playoff.
On the flip side of that, though, they also haven't played anybody. Minus Clemson now.
They should have beat BYU. It could have beat Clemson. The two teams that they lost by a combined 6 points. They beat Duke. Duke is as good as Alabama. Duke has 3 losses. Duke's losses are to Georgia Tech. Oh my God, Duke lost to like the best teams in the country, and they should be ranked. Their only losses are I'll tell you right now, Georgia Tech. Freaking Miami, and another top something
Who
team.
is this?
SMU.
SMU has a win at Duke, which is a 9-3 team. They lost to Georgia Tech, who's beating everybody. Should have beat Georgia, Miami, and they lost to
BYU in September.
BYU. There you go. Who's a good team?
If you look at this though, and it's crazy too. If you just look at the top, let's say top 15. So looking at their records, everyone is double-digit wins, and then you go down to Alabama at 11 and 9-3, and then you have Ole Miss at 9-3 as well. The fact that they're Ole Miss is probably out, but the fact that Bama is even in the conversation here strictly on merits alone is, listen, we're at this point now 2-3 years removed from Nick Saban. And the fact that this team is going to more than likely probably get a playoff spot is abysmal.
No, they're not going to. They're not going to. I'd say it's a 5% chance, to be honest with you.
There are so many teams I'd rather see over them. I'd rather see Miami. I'd rather see, I guess you said Boise State's locked in. Indiana's probably going to be in it. I'm excited to watch Arizona State. I hope SMU gets a bye. But also at the same time, you got to think, though, anything really happens. This is a pretty funky college football season, I feel like.
I don't think SMU is going to get the bye because they didn't win their conference.
They should give it to SMU. If they don't want to give it to SMU, then it has to go to South Carolina because South Carolina is the best football team right now.
I had a buddy telling me that, and I didn't believe him at first, and I started reading up on it. You're absolutely correct.
If they have a lead, you are fucked. They have an incredible pass rush. They have Kyle Kennard, and they have Dylan Stewart, who's the best player in the country as a freshman. He could get drafted in the top 10 this year as a freshman.
The best player in the country is Cam Scatterbo, but that's neither here nor there.
No. Oh, God.
I'm telling you, he's going to be the next Danny Woodhead.
I thought the buys were just going to be the conference winners.
The buys are Boise State. The conference winners.
Oregon.
It's
Georgia.
crazy. It's crazy to me that Penn State maintained a 3rd ranking or a top 3 ranking after that loss.
The AP has them at 5. Where
The AP poll is retarded.
Dude, I don't know. I'm
Where's
on.
the college- where's the college
I
football
can't find.
playoff?
I don't know. I can't find it. I'm looking at Google with the
probably
FBS
coming out
1
tomorrow.
rankings.
Oh, no. The AP poll is Penn State's the 5.
Yeah. But the AP poll.
Texas should be lower. Texas
Oregon,
can't. Texas folds,
Okay.
man.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Sark is one of the best coaches in the country. Why he can't see that Quinn Ewers is the problem is beyond me. Beyond me.
Arch Manning wins that game.
Absolutely. Arch Manning wins the first time.
They brought him in for the first snap of overtime. I thought they were going to leave him in.
Should've
It
left
makes
him in.
no
They should've.
sense. It makes 0 sense why they're doing this with him. But
That ruined my weekend.
I've got about 20 minutes left here, boys. So let's keep going with this Sunday slate. You've got Falcons, Vikings.
I think that's going to be a good game.
That's a 1:00 game. Vikings are -6 at home. Saints Giants is going to be a nothing game. There's going to be a lot of nothing games here. That's going to be a really important game for both sides. Vikings have to continue winning if they want a chance to win the NFC North. And the Falcons are kind of like up shit's creek here. It almost looks like they're going to lose this division to the Buccaneers, who they've beaten twice, which is insane. The Falcons are folding.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like to think that the Falcons are amongst the teams who don't get the credit they deserve. I've been watching them kind of closely all season, mainly because I've been betting on them a lot. And Young Waku has been fucking me a lot, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
They're on a 3-game losing streak. They lost to the Saints, got killed by the Broncos, lost to the Chargers. You really think they walk into Minnesota? I would love it. But I just don't see how they walk into Minnesota and win today.
I don't know if they win, but I think they definitely. I think 6.5 points on the spread's a lot.
You think Sam Darnold turns it over?
I just think it's going to be a closer game than Vegas is leading on to. I think there's a lot of heavy spreads today that could be a lot less, like that one. You look at the Browns Steelers spread. The Steelers have earned that 6.5 point spread, but I still think that's going to be a close game. That's going to be, again, like a 10-9 game.
AFC North,
Yeah. Vegas Buccaneers, I think, might have a chance to be a little closer than a 6.5 point spread. But
and with all of my pissing and moaning about the media with the Lions call, I kind of totally forgot about last week's big game, Eagles-Ravens. Eagles win that game. That shocked me. What didn't shock me was watching Justin Tucker miss kicks. At some point, the Ravens are going to have to make a decision at kicker because, and it's really hard to walk away from Justin Tucker, but at the same rate, he's a liability out there. I mean, he gave up what, 6 points, 9 points. I think he missed 3 kicks last week. He did it against the Steelers. He's probably the reason that the Ravens lost to the Steelers. He's a big part of the reason that the Ravens lost to the Eagles. If you're John Harbaugh, at what point do you walk away from the greatest kicker we've ever seen?
The end of the season. I think I think I spoke about this before. He's going out like Vinatieri. Towards the end of Vinatieri's career, it was kind of the same deal where he was missing kicks that were always automatic for him to hit. And I think he saw that and said, enough's enough. I'm done. I appreciate my career, everything I've, accomplished and whatnot. Justin Tucker, I think it's time to break. I think it's time for him to say, okay, that's that for me. Like it is what it is. So I don't know.
Facino, you've been big on the Ravens. What would you do here? You'd let him ride it out?
Yeah, you ride it out.
Oh, I mean, yeah, let him finish the year. I mean, I guess.
He's costing Lamar Jackson an MVP, though.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the biggest problem. Forget about the playoffs and stuff like that, because I don't think it's going to matter with home field advantage for them because they have Derrick Henry. But
a playoff game could absolutely come down to a 35-yard field goal.
Yeah,
he'll hit it. He's going to be fine. He'll be fine.
You don't worry about him in the playoffs at all.
No, I'm not worried about him at all.
You don't worry about a kicker that's missing kicks with games on the line in the regular season. You don't worry about a 31-year-old running back who's getting 20 to 25 touches a game.
No. I'll never worry about Derrick Henry because no one's like him. So you can't like when someone's like, are you worried about LeBron James? No. You worried about, Tom Brady? No. Am I worried about Derrick Henry? No. He's the best running back I've ever seen. And he will run for 150 yards in any playoff game that he plays with Lamar Jackson. So I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about maybe like a 50-yarder for Justin Tucker just because of the way the ball is tracking off his foot. But I'm not concerned. If they can keep those field goals closer, then I think they're fine. And he doesn't miss by like more than 2 yards. It's really incredible. Like he's missing every field goal to the left by a yard. What are you going to do? You can't. I've seen my kickers miss all over the place. Left, right, fucking short. This guy misses every kick the same way, which means he's right on. It's just something's happening with. They should probably switch the holder. They should cut if they have an extra guy that they're keeping on their roster.
Oh yeah, his holder retired. Didn't we talk about that a couple weeks ago?
They should bring the holder back, I don't know if the holder was a punter in the past and they changed punters, but they should bring the holder back if they can, just for the playoffs, because I think that would help.
What are we thinking of the Eagles? People are saying that the Eagles are the best team in football right now. A lot of very confident radio hosts in Philly firmly believe if the Lions have to come to Philly, they're losing that game. I don't know. Lions have won on the road They've won in bad conditions. Everybody wants to call them a dome team that they can't play in conditions. I mean, they did it in Green Bay this year in the freezing rain.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't seem to affect them. They won by 2 scores. I think what is going to affect them is injuries. Like, if you're talking about a healthy Lions team walking into Philly, I think they've got as good a chance as anybody else. And that being said, I think if Philly comes to Detroit, yeah, I mean, I would take us. Of course, I'm always going to take us. But, like, yeah, Saquon running in a dome, Jalen Hurts, like, yeah, they could put up points. So, there's a lot of, like, tremendous confidence coming out of the city of Philly. And I've seen a lot of people in the national media, same thing. They're kind of discrediting the Lions. And that's fine because nobody wins in the media. You win in the field. Are the Eagles the best team in the NFC?
Yeah.
I
No.
don't think so.
I think the Lions are better than the Eagles. I think what's going to happen is I think the Eagles are going to end up shooting themselves in the foot. Some way, somehow, I think Sirianni's going to kind of get something in his head. See, he's already a nutcase, but like I think he might see what Dan Campbell does. Be like, oh yeah, I could do that, but I could do that better. We need to be better than them or whatever, and then just kind of lose them a game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're a Sirianni implosion away from everything melting down, in my opinion. I don't think he's a great leader. I think he's a good coach. But he's got a screw loose up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think things can go off the rails very quickly. You could say that about Dan, that like the only thing you could say about him is that he's ballsy and he goes for it on fourth, but I think he's a sound coach. I think he knows, he's not bringing his kids up to the podium after a fucking field goal win over the Browns and shaving his head. Like, what the fuck was that? And like,
He's a good coach, though.
He is a good coach, but I think that he's got a screw loose. I mean, I don't think he's a mentally sane guy.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
Belichick has a loose screw. Andy Reid has a loose screw. Dan Campbell's got a loose screw. Robert Saleh had it all together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but like Belichick's not yelling at the fans. I mean, that's weird.
Well, you know what?
Very weird.
Fans. You want to yell at the coach that's won 80% of his games? Then, screw you. I think he's done such a fabulous job with the Eagles, but I also think that the Eagles always push the goalposts. And also, just by winning naturally, once you make the Super Bowl, now it's like, well, are you going to make it back in the next 2 years? Or you're a fucking stupid losing head coach? It's like, no, like it's almost impossible to make it to the Super Bowl. You have to have a great team. You have to get lucky. And you have to, just have a great stretch of where you're the hottest team in your conference. And then to go back, you're saying, all right, I got to go put all that together again. I got to draft right. I got to sign the right guys back.
Ball's got to bounce your way.
Ball has to bounce your way. Like, forget it. It's so hard that, to judge coaches off of, and it's going to happen to Dan Campbell if they make it to the Super Bowl and lose.
Yeah.
That'll happen to Dan Campbell. It's like, what do you want this guy to do? The guy brought you to a conference championship. You should have won. And then he brought you to a Super Bowl. And now he's got to bring you to the Super Bowl. And if he doesn't win the Super Bowl, then he's going to get fired in 3 years. I don't think that. I think Dan Campbell should be the head coach for the next 10 to 15 years, regardless of how it goes, because at least the guy knows how to breed a culture. Now, if you can't bring the personnel in, then that's one thing. But what the Eagles have right now is they have the personnel, they have a good culture, and they have a fantastic leader in Jalen Hurts, who is willing to put his body on the line, and he's the quarterback. He touches the ball every time. So I have, and yeah, I know Stevie Mack, you got to give a lot of props to the GM, but at the same time, I've seen some great rosters in New Jersey, just fantastically built rosters, not, get the, the wins that they thought they were going to get. And, is that a testament to, Fugazi roster building? But it also has to do with the coaching. You can draft these players, but the coaches have to coach them up and get them prepared. And, have a game plan where they can get guys open and, game plan to, find out where the offense wants to run the ball, stop that, find out where, the offense wants to throw the ball and be prepared for that and not get fooled. And I've seen a lot of these, like the Jaguars, they're always out of position on defense. It's not about athleticism when you're getting beat by 3 or 4 yards. That is scheme. When you're close but you can't make the play and you're like a few yards away, that's a talent issue. When you're yards away and guys are wide open, it has nothing to do with talent. It's scheme and preparation. And you can see that the teams that are at the top have the best preparation, and the teams that are at the bottom, there's a lot of those teams that are talented, but they're just not prepared and they don't have the proper coaching.
Also, as far as the Eagles go, let's call it for what it is. Their offense relies on two people and two people only, and that's Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. I feel as if, yes,
AJ
they
Brown.
have
AJ Brown.
They have names at receivers, but I feel like they're kind of, I don't want to say underutilized, but I feel like they don't produce as much as people like to give them the credit that they do for. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you look at their, again, this is going off fantasy numbers and fantasy numbers alone.
This year.
Yeah, this year. Yeah, this year. That's what I'm talking about. This is all that matters. What have you done for me lately? This is the NFL after all. But, like, with everything that they're doing, I just feel as if, all they do is run. Like, that's what their big ticket is for this year, is just running the ball, and it's working, good for them. But, like, I don't know. I feel like as far as like weapons go, like if you look at the stats from the Lions game on Thursday night, I want to say 5 players had 10 catches. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Bask.
What are you saying?
Five players had 10 or more catches each.
5 players had 10 or more catches each. Where?
Targets.
Detroit?
Yeah.
No, they did not have 10 or more catches.
Okay. Well, there was some. I heard some stat where I'm trying to get at is that the teams, the Lions have more contributing factors in their offense that you have to gameplay around as opposed to just, okay, we need to stop Saquon Barkley.
Everybody that caught the ball Thursday night caught it a minimum of 5 times.
Okay, maybe that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
You
So
also
5
have
catches.
AJ
10
Brown
players.
I don't think he's caught more than 5 or 6. I don't think AJ Brown's had a game where he caught more than 6 balls this year, but he's also just unbelievable after the catch. He's like 6th in yards for
not to mention you have
games,
what's his name from Bama? I'm drawing a blank.
Devonta Smith. He's been hurt. They've been
can't
hurt.
stay healthy. He can't stay healthy.
Yeah, they both have been hurt, and I think that they're both. That's why I think people like the Eagles a lot, is because their team is healthy and their secondary, like Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, is ridiculous. Quinyon Mitchell is such a good player, and they have these 2 corners that are 21 years old, so they're only going to get better. And when you have the young guys producing, everybody wants to talk about it. When the older guys are producing, it's like, well, great, Kirby Joseph, great, you're producing, you should, Davis, you should produce. But with the Eagles, they're young, so they think they're going to continue to get better every week. At some point, you plateau. Is Quinyon Mitchell going to get better? I don't think he can. How much better can you get if you're letting up 2 receptions a game? It doesn't make much sense. People are just going to stop throwing to you and game plan around those players. So I think if you're, like I said, good coaching, like Ben Johnson, I think he can go in and beat the Eagles if need be in the championship game. I think coaching will decide that game if they both get there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Coaching, injuries. I mean, injuries. This is the NFL. Injuries play a big role in everything. Just like we have a great offensive line, there are a lot of people that would say maybe the Eagles have a little bit better of an offensive line. That's a 1A, 1B in the NFL right now, is the Eagles and the Lions offensive lines. So, that's definitely going to be something to watch. Selfishly, I'd like to see the Eagles lose a game here, and there is some trap game potential here today. I saw there was a bettor in Philly that put $3 million on the Eagles spread, or maybe it might have been Eagles money line.
I hope it was money line, because that's a fat spread.
14 points. 14 points.
It's more than possible, but it's a fat spread.
Panthers are traveling to Philly.
$3 million.
I don't like that 14-point spread. I think the Panthers have played decent football as of late. They took the Buccaneers into overtime last week. The week before that, they took the Chiefs down to the fucking wire, 30-27 loss. So, the Panthers aren't a terrible team. They're not a good team, but credit to them. Bryce Young is playing the best football of his life right now. He's having, if you want to call it a career resurgence, right? Like, this is a guy we were talking about trading, replacing just, 8 weeks ago. And now he's playing some great football. So shit, you walk into the link and you beat the Eagles today on a 14-point spread. A loss like this is something that could derail a season. Like, I shouldn't say it could derail them, but this would be a really embarrassing loss if the Eagles come out here flat. And
This would come down to exactly what I said before, the Sirianni meltdown.
The biggest regular
This is the
season
game
bet
where it happens.
is today. Somebody bet like $3.5 million on the Eagles
That's what I'm
outright or
saying.
something. So
Yeah.
to win like probably $500,000 too,
It's
because
like $300,000.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's insane. You got to have money to burn if you're doing that.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff.
Wild. What else
Jaguars?
Ooh, Jaguars Titans?
The toilet
Look,
bowl.
Battle of mid?
Death, taxes, rooting for the Jets and Jags to lose in December. Go Titans. I am begging. I'm begging these teams to lose. Can you just lose out? Just lose out. It's not that hard. You suck. Trevor Lawrence is IR'd for the season. Breece Hall should never play again for the Jets. I mean, there's Olu Fashanu might not play today. Just lose. It's so easy. Lose. Call a run every play. HB dive.
Don't tell
40
anybody this.
44 belly.
I think I'm betting the Dolphins.
Hammer the Dolphins. They're
Yeah.
going to
You bet with your brain, not
murder
with your heart.
the Jets. I think is Sauce Gardner out?
Yep, Sauce is out.
Murder. Hammer them. How much money do you have? Put it all on them. Tyreek Hill is going to go for 150 yards. Jalen Waddle is going to live in the end zone, and we're going to try to run the ball up the gut with Braylon Allen. It's
I
gonna
do not
be
see. I
pathetic.
do see.
You
Sauce
put some
Gardner.
respect on Braylon Allen's name.
I can't stand them. I'm sorry. I want Ashton Jeanty.
The score?
I want Ashton Jeanty on the Jets. Give me Ashton Jeanty. Set the tone. If they want to hire Mike Vrabel, give him his Derrick Henry. Just stop it with the I want a quarterback. If they wind up drafting 2 or 1 or 3, I want a quarterback. I don't think that's going to happen. If you're drafting at 7 and 8,
Jackson Dart.
I can't do it. He's Mormon.
Is he?
He went to the same high school as Zach Wilson. I can't do it.
Really?
I'd rather
Oh, I
die.
didn't know that. That's news.
Yeah, I know. I liked him too. Until I
can't
found
do
out
it.
the bad
He's
news.
Mormon.
Found out the bad
you sell-
news. And
But would you sell him solar panels?
no.
No.
Anybody that even knows Zach Wilson, I don't want to talk to him.
No, Zach Wilson himself is selling solar panels. Actually, he's
Zach
actually
Wilson will
he's
sell, yeah.
he's a competitor to Fasino's business.
Yeah,
Let me
he's
tell
the whole
you,
thing.
if there is a business that Zach Wilson could get into after the NFL, it's selling solar panels. You know how many like Long Island moms would love to open the door for Zach Wilson and sign whatever paperwork he puts in front of them? That guy would Fasino, if that guy started selling solar panels on Long Island, you'd be on a fucking construction site with me the next week. You'd be out of business.
I'd be out
You
of
would
business.
be cooked, my friend. You
I'd
would
be
be
cooked.
cooked.
Actually, no, I wouldn't. Because he wouldn't be able to put the deals together.
Oh yeah, he would.
He'd sell it, but then it would fall
Yeah, he
apart
would.
because he can't think. He can't do math. So,
Another game I'm watching today, Bills at Rams. This is a
Mhm.
really important game for the Rams. Rams
Yep.
have to win. They're 6-6. They are still very much into the NFC West battle, and the Bills need this too, right? They need that 1 seed in the AFC. The Chiefs are still ahead of them. The Chiefs only have 1 loss, so the Bills are sitting there with 2. They need the Chiefs to lose a game at some point here, and which could happen. They're playing the Chargers. The Chargers are red hot. I don't think the Chargers will beat them, but this is a very important game on both ends. And I think it's going to be a heavy, heavy Buffalo crowd in SoFi.
Yeah, I think my buddy who lives out in Orange County, he's a diehard Bills fan. I think he's going to be in the building too. They travel. Not only do they travel well, but shockingly, there is a mafia crowd out in Southern California.
There
Believe
is.
it or not, there's mafia crowds everywhere.
Everywhere.
But
yeah.
yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think this is the Rams season right here. They've had kind of, Stafford's hurt. He's playing hurt. They've had a lot of injuries. They've since come back, but I don't know. I think the Bills are playing for keeps here. I think we'll see the Bills in a big spot come January, late January. So,
All right,
Yeah.
boys. I got to get the wife ready for the baby shower today, so I need to jump off. Do we do we have anything? Do you want me to just jump off here, Jerry? You guys want to keep going?
I got nothing else. I'm good. I think this is a pretty boring show for a pretty boring week. There's really
Yeah.
nothing that's tickling my fancy. I don't know. I
Next
just
week should be a little better. You got
Yeah.
Lions, Bills. You've
Jet
got
Jag.
no, do we really?
Toilet bowl. Yeah, toilet bowl next week.
Oh shit! You guys should be going to Jacksonville for that game. That should be a.
I wouldn't spend any more money. Imagine
doing a show from the fucking parking lot out in Jacksonville.
Yeah, if they were both 10, I thought they were both going to be like a 10-win team at this point, and it was going to be some crazy, like, awesome game. And
Steelers Eagles is
for
big
losses.
next week. Steelers Eagles.
Yeah.
Colts Broncos should actually be decent. Buccaneers Chargers. There's a lot of playoff implications next week, and so that'll be good. And obviously, like I said, Buffalo Detroit. So all right, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you all next week.
See you guys.
Oh yeah, I have to